Welcome back. Boy, there is a heated court battle going on in the state of Texas. A divorced couple is fighting over the community property. But the community property we're talking about, it's not their house or their car, or not even the dog. We're talking about 3 frozen embryos. They are small prizes in a big battle between warring exes. A custody dispute over 3 frozen embryos. The court calls them property. The ex-wife claims they're her children. The ex-husband says they should be discarded. Now the case may end up in the U.S. Supreme Court. It all began back in 2002. A Texas couple, Augusta and Randy Roman, tried unsuccessfully for 2 years to get pregnant. Their last hope was in planting fertilized embryos in Augusta's womb. But at the last possible minute, Randy backed out, insisting they had marital problems and needed counseling. So they chose to freeze the embryos. About a year and a half later, the Romans divorced and divided everything from their 6-year marriage, except the embryos. Oddly enough, the couple initially signed a form stating the embryos would be disposed of in case of their divorce. But Augusta wanted to take the surviving 3 embryos and have them implanted in herself, absolving Randy from any financial or parental obligation. However, Randy wanted the embryos destroyed, or at least frozen indefinitely. He argued he did not want children with his ex-wife, but he also would not abandon any offspring either.
Okay, got that? Joining us right now is Augusta Roman, her attorney, Rebecca Wright, fatherhood activist Glenn Sachs, and of course, former judge and prosecutor Janine Pirro is staying with us. So I'm going to ask you the question first. I mean, you look a little nervous, so don't worry. We're friendly people here. Your ex-husband doesn't want children with you. Why do you want them?
Well, they're my children. I consider them my children. Even though he doesn't want them, they're my biological children. I consider them my children already.
And you are in your mid-40s.
Yes, sir.
And you cannot produce any more eggs.
Yes,
you believe this is your last chance,
my last chance
to be a mom.
Yes.
Wasn't there a contract signed, though, basically that said if they get a divorce, everything's out the door?
The fertility company can discard the eggs?
That there was a consent form signed with the fertility clinic that basically said that they would have the implantation, that any remaining embryos that were not implanted would be frozen, and at the time of divorce, if there were any remaining embryos frozen, that they would be discarded.
Case closed.
Case not closed.
Why not?
Our position is that Randy Roman withdrew his consent to the implantation. 10 hours before this woman was going to become pregnant with her children, he pulled the plug and said, nope, don't want to do it. And so Augusta, after counseling and trying to patch things up with him, when divorce became imminent, she withdrew her consent and said, you know what? This wasn't my deal. I didn't agree to freeze all my embryos and destroy them at the time of divorce.
Wow.
So now I'm withdrawing my consent,
you can
just
see
like
points,
you did.
You can see points on both sides,
Yeah.
but Glenn, I know you're fired up over there because you're saying, well, this is a guy who, yeah, he did at the last minute say, no, I don't want to go through with this, and I have a right not to.
Well, I do, and I don't know why she's forcing him into this when he doesn't want to do it, and it's not her last chance.
Why isn't it her last
motherhood,
chance?
Because she can adopt. I adopted a little boy when he was 2 years old. I've raised him for the last 12 years.
That's an easy thing for a guy to say, Glenn.
I've raised him for the last 12 years. I love him just the same as I love my biological daughter. There's no difference to me. There are millions and millions of children out there, orphans.
But she has the urge
who
would love to have a good home that she could
has the
provide.
urge, the need to be a mother.
Yeah, mom, to my biological
She could be a mother to adoptive children, and also, you know, she's 45 years old. She had a long time. It's not like this act of God came down that prevented her from ever having a biological child. She's had plenty of time to do that.
Well, hang on a second now. Listen, buddy.
But this is when it was a...
No, he could say that about me, too, and I do want children, but it hasn't happened for me yet. And I don't think that's your business to say. No, it's not a choice I've made. It's not a choice I've made. No, it's not a choice I've made.
You don't choose whether to have children or not?
it's none of your
I chose
business
whether to
why
have a
I
child
don't
or not,
have
you
children,
don't.
but it's my choice, and it's not your business to say why I don't have kids right now.
And for Augusta,
didn't
this is
say
when
that.
everything aligned, when she was able to find someone that she wanted to marry
I wanted
at
to
that
ma-
point.
and that's what we did.
And came together. They made a decision to have a child. So it just happens to be at her point in time when when she became the possibility of becoming a mother.
And Mike, if I could respond to something that he said, we're not forcing Randy Roman to do anything. Texas has a law that says a man has a right to choose. He can choose to be a daddy or he can choose to not be a daddy. And if he chooses to not be a daddy, he's not going to pay support. He's not going to have any rights to the children.
But he has children out there then. That's not, I mean, I'm arguing with you because from a different point, but I do understand your point.
He doesn't want a child out there that doesn't have a father. He wants to be a stand-up guy and not create that. Also, whatever Texas law has, okay, family courts, they're able to do whatever they want in the best interest of the child. It is always in the best interest of the child to get child support. Whatever law they have, whatever agreement, whatever, no offense, but whatever she says,
Right.
it wouldn't last 15 minutes.
What was that? Well, he's already
And
created
he could be on the hook for 18 years of child support, and that's a lot of money.
He has created a child.
He's already
You believe
created a
that?
child. I just want the opportunity to have them.
So
grow
you
up.
believe those embryos are children?
I believe they're
already.
children.
The
Judge,
agreement very clearly. Okay.
Glenn, just real quickly, because we don't have too much time. I thank God we're not judges.
I'll tell you,
this is too hard.
This is a fascinating issue, Mike. And before we even get to your question, what you have on the one hand is a contract, whether you call it consent or not, where they both agreed to get rid of the embryo in the event of a divorce. And then on the other hand, you have the equitable issues of a woman who wants to have a child, who thinks that, you know what, maybe this embryo is already fertilized and therefore I should have the right to continue. Here's where you draw the line. What you have is a divorced couple. He doesn't want to be a father. He said, I'm not going to support the child, and she wants to go forward. I would think that the Texas Supreme Court is going to rule in the father's favor, because at the end of the day, you know, if you're not responsible for child support, we as a society are, because the father doesn't want to be a part of this. It's a fascinating legal issue that I think has not been resolved in Texas. It could probably go either way, but I think the consent is already there.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
What, like Becky was saying, there's a law already saying that he doesn't have to pay financial support.
Okay, right, in Texas.
He does, yes.
But I think, you understand, though, as a couple, he made a decision to say, yes, let's go forward. But then you weren't a couple anymore, and he realized he didn't want to have that child with you. I mean, you have to understand, I'm not saying that you're going to support his point, because obviously you're not, but you have to understand his point there.
And these are my biological children. I don't understand his point where he wants to destroy what we already created. He's already created a child, children. You know, he cannot back out. You know, you don't get divorced and say, okay, let's just abandon the kids and go start another family. These are my last biological children.
Does he believe the embryos are children?
I don't think he does.
He doesn't.
I don't think he
I
does.
don't believe that
exactly
embryos
the
are
issue.
children either, and
But
they
I
had a
do.
very
But
clear
Augusta
agreement.
does.
But
and a
I
lot
They
of
had a
do.
people-
very
my
clear
children.
agreement, as the Texas Court of Appeal said in its ruling. It was very clear, in event of divorce or death or event of divorce, they're not going to go forward with this child. It's a completely different thing. You know, okay, he wanted to have a child with her when they were married, not when they're divorced.
Rebecca,
That's a
quickly.
logical decision.
Quickly, it's not a contract, it's not enforceable, and it's not binding. It's a consent form. They both have the right to withdraw their consent.
Janine, you're saying no.
Texas
Disagree.
Court of Appeal completely disagreed with you.
No, disagree
And
legally.
we-
You know what, you could say it's not a contract, but then everybody's signature is irrelevant in these situations. It's a contract, it's binding.
It's
a
tough
consent.
because I do
This is a
understand
consent.
your position. You know,
It
at
does say
37,
consent
and
on the form.
I want to have a biological child. I hope it happens. I would consider adopting, but you know, I want a biological child first, and I think time is starting to go up there. Do I want one? Yes. Do you want one? Yes. It may not work that way.
And you can see the desperation on
yeah.
Augusta's face here, and we certainly feel for you, and thank you for coming in. We're going to follow
And this is not the last, let me say this, this is not the last, this is not the first time Randy had pulled out of agreement. He's done this years ago.
He walked away from the altar
Walked
in another
away from
case.
the altar
Yeah.
and said that, the
That's
lady
a whole
was
other side of the story,
And he did the
Augusta.
same to me.
Yeah.
And then he said he knew in court 2 years before we started the IVF that he has a problem. He never disclosed that to me.
Gotcha.
that
And
he had
again,
a
we
problem.
tried to have him on the show and his attorney, but because of time restraints in their particular lives, they couldn't be here today. But we'll follow this case.
Thank you
This
very
gets
much.
passionate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.